Have you ever noticed how a woman, no matter how strong she looks, sometimes hides a storm inside her heart? A woman can be surrounded by people yet still feel lonely, unvalued, and unseen. Today, I want to share with you a powerful lesson, not about the world outside, but about the world within. Because true strength does not come from how many friends you have or how many people praise you. True strength comes from knowing your self-worth, walking with God's guidance, and realizing that you are never truly alone. Even when the world turns its back, remember the divine never leaves your side. And that is where your real power lies. Imagine a woman walking through life carrying an invisible mirror. Everywhere she goes, she looks into that mirror, but the reflection she sees depends on how others look at her. When someone praises her, her reflection shines bright. When someone ignores her, the reflection fades. If society labels her as successful, she stands tall. But if society looks down upon her, she feels small. Isn't it true that most of us, knowingly or unknowingly, live like this? We measure our worth through the eyes of others, not realizing that the eyes of people are unstable, temporary, and an ever-changing. What pleases someone today may not please them tomorrow. What wins their admiration in one moment may bring their criticism in the next. And if our worth is tied to these fleeting judgments, we will spend our whole lives chasing approval yet never truly feel complete. The truth is, self-worth is not something the world can give or take away. Self-worth is a gift that God has already placed within us. From the moment you were born, you were given dignity, value, and uniqueness. No two fingerprints are alike, no two faces are the same, and no two souls carry the exact same purpose. If God went to such detail to make you one of a kind, then how can your worth ever be reduced to someone else's opinion? Think about it. A diamond does not lose its value if someone fails to recognize it. A child holding a diamond may treat it like a stone, but that does not make the diamond worthless. Similarly, when people fail to see your brilliance, it doesn't change the fact that you are priceless in the eyes of the divine. Let me give you an example from daily life. Imagine a young woman who works tirelessly at her job. She shows up early, she stays late, she puts her heart into everything she does. Yet her colleagues often overlook her efforts. Her boss never praises her, and her so-called friends at work rarely acknowledge her contributions. Slowly, she begins to doubt herself. She wonders, am I not good enough? Maybe I am not talented. Maybe I don't deserve recognition. But then one evening, as she sits alone, she remembers something her grandmother used to say. Child, the sun does not need to be told it is bright. The sun shines whether people admire it or hide from it. The sun knows its place because God placed it there. Suddenly, she realizes that her worth does not depend on the applause of her colleagues. She is valuable because of her sincerity, her effort, and the divine light within her. The next day, she returns to her work, not for praise, but with pride in who she is. And that shift in mindset transforms her energy completely. This is the essence of life. When we tie our worth to the unstable hands of society, we become weak and restless. But when we anchor our worth in God's gift, we stand firm like a mountain, unmoved by storms. Society will always have changing standards. At one time, beauty meant one thing. Today, it means something else. Tomorrow, it will mean something entirely different. Success used to be defined by stability. Now it is defined by speed. If we keep trying to mold ourselves into every shape society demands, we will break apart. But if we remember that our worth was never in their hands, we can remain authentic, peaceful, and strong. Consider another simple example, a mother at home. She spends her days cooking, cleaning, teaching her children, and keeping the household together. Yet, she rarely hears words of appreciation. Sometimes, her own family may take her for granted. If she measures her worth only by the appreciation she receives, she may feel invisible. But if she understands that her worth is beyond the words spoken to her, that every act of love, every sacrifice, every sleepless night is seen by God, then she stands tall, even in silence. The value of her effort cannot be measured by claps or compliments. It is measured by the sincerity of her heart, and that is something eternal. The problem is not that society doesn't see our worth. The real problem is that we start believing their blindness is the truth. But imagine if a flower doubted its beauty just because nobody stopped to admire it. Would the flower stop blooming? No. It continues to bloom because blooming is its nature. In the same way, your worth is in your nature, in your being, in your creation. You are valuable not because people say you are valuable, but because God made you valuable. So, my dear friends, remind yourself each day, I am not here to prove my worth. I am here to live my worth. Whether people notice or not, whether friends stay or leave, whether society praises or criticizes, your worth remains untouched. When you understand this truth deeply, you will stop living like a slave to opinions and start living like a servant of purpose. Self-worth is God's gift. Don't hand it over to the unstable judgment of others. Hold it close, protect it, and live with the dignity that the divine has already given you. And once you recognize your own worth, you will never beg for it from others. You will walk with grace, speak with confidence, and shine with the light that was placed within you since the day you were born. There comes a moment in life when the crowd disappears, when the voices that once encouraged you fall silent, and when the shoulders you thought you could lean on suddenly move away. In such moments, most of us feel broken. We mistake loneliness for weakness, as if being without people means we are without strength. But here lies the greatest secret of life. Inner strength is not found in the company of others. It is discovered in the quiet space where you stand alone with faith. Think about this for a moment. When a tree grows in a crowded forest, it often relies on the shade of taller trees. But when a tree grows alone in an open field, it has no protection from the scorching sun, the heavy rains, or the violent winds. Yet what happens? That tree develops deeper roots, stronger bark, and unshakable resilience. It grows in such a way that it can withstand storms all by itself. Similarly, life sometimes removes people from around us not to make us weak, but to deepen our roots, to strengthen our faith, and to prepare us for greater storms ahead. Let me share an example. A young woman once told me her story. She had always been surrounded by friends. Friends to celebrate with, friends to laugh with, friends to spend every evening with. But when life tested her with a painful loss, most of those friends drifted away. In her darkest nights, she found herself sitting alone, staring at the ceiling, feeling abandoned. At first, the silence terrified her. She thought, how will I survive without anyone by my side? But slowly, she began to use that silence differently. Instead of fearing it, she started to sit in prayer, reflecting on her journey. She realized that in those quiet moments, she felt a calm presence within her heart, a presence that never left, a presence that whispered strength. That was her turning point. She discovered that God was her truest companion, and that her strength was not dependent on the presence of friends, but on the power of her faith. Today, she stands strong, not because she has many people around her, but because she has built unshakable strength within. Loneliness is often misunderstood. We think being alone means being empty, but in reality, solitude is the classroom where life teaches us its deepest lessons. When no one is there to guide you, you learn to guide yourself. When no one is there to encourage you, you learn to encourage yourself. And when no one is there to hold your hand, you realize that the divine is always holding it, unseen but unfailing. The strength that emerges from such experiences cannot be taken away by anyone. Look at the life of many great souls. Their strength was not built in crowded celebrations, but in lonely battles. The warrior does not become strong by fighting alongside hundreds. He becomes strong by facing the enemy when there is no one else. The bird does not learn to fly in a group. It learns by spreading its wings alone against the wind. The same is true for us. We often say we want to be strong, but strength cannot be gifted by company. It must be carved in silence, in difficulty, in solitude, where only your faith stands beside you. Take a simple daily example. Imagine a woman raising her children. There are days when nobody acknowledges her struggles. There are nights when she sits awake, worrying, planning, and sacrificing. Her friends may not see her tears. Her relatives may not understand her exhaustion. Yet, where does her strength come from? It comes from that silent voice inside her heart that says, "Keep going. You are not alone." That inner faith becomes her power. Even without applause, even without constant company, she carries on because she has learned to draw strength from within, a strength that flows from her unshaken belief in God's presence. Another example is of students preparing for exams. Often their friends may be distracted, socializing, enjoying, and laughing. But the student who sits alone at night, poring over the books with focus and determination, feels the loneliness deeply. Yet, that very loneliness shapes discipline, resilience, and clarity. When results arrive, it is not the company of friends that gives success, it is the strength born from those quiet hours of solitude. The same applies to our spiritual growth. Faith is not tested when we are surrounded by cheerleaders. Faith is tested when the world goes quiet and you must walk forward with nothing but trust in God. That is where true inner strength is born. And once you taste that strength, you realize you are never as weak as you once thought. So, remember this when you find yourself without company. Do not see it as punishment. See it as preparation. Life is giving you a sacred chance to discover your deepest power. When friends leave, when support disappears, when laughter fades, do not collapse. Instead, close your eyes and whisper to your heart, "I am never truly alone. My faith is my strength, and God is my companion." The strongest women are not those who always had a crowd cheering for them. The strongest women are those who walked alone, cried in silence, prayed in faith, and stood up again with courage no one could explain. Their strength did not come from company. It came from solitude. It came from faith. And once you have that kind of strength, you become unbreakable, because nothing outside can take away the power that God has built inside. There is a common belief that without friends, we are incomplete. People often say, "Who will you talk to if you are alone? Who will walk beside you? Who will support you?" And yes, companionship is a beautiful gift when it is genuine. But what happens when life does not give you that gift? What happens when people walk away, when friends drift apart, when you find yourself sitting in silence with no one to call? Most people in that moment feel broken. But in truth, this is where a greater discovery is waiting. You are never friendless, because God is always with you, and your purpose is the truest companion you can ever have. Think for a moment. Imagine a person walking on a long road. At the start, many people join him. Some walk a little distance, others a little longer. But eventually, one by one, they take different turns, leaving him alone. If he feels defeated, he will sit on the roadside and cry. But if he remembers that his journey has a purpose, he will keep walking. And though no one is beside him, his purpose becomes his company. Every step he takes with faith becomes a conversation with God. Every struggle becomes a prayer, and every breath becomes strength. Let me share an example. A young woman once told me that after finishing her studies, she felt left out because all her friends were busy in their own lives. Some got married, some moved abroad, and others became so occupied that they rarely spoke. She felt forgotten. But instead of drowning in loneliness, she began to ask herself, "What is my purpose?" Slowly, she started spending her time teaching poor children in her community. At first, she thought she was helping them, but soon she realized they were helping her. Each smile of a child, each moment of gratitude, each small success filled her heart with joy. She no longer felt lonely because her purpose walked with her every day. In that work, she felt God's companionship so deeply, as if every step she took was guided and blessed. This is the truth we often forget. People may leave us, but God never leaves us. When you sit alone and speak from your heart, when you cry in silence, when you laugh without reason, God is listening. That invisible companionship is more powerful than any friendship because it never betrays, it never fades, and it never disappears. When you realize that the divine is always walking beside you, you stop fearing loneliness. Instead, you begin to embrace it because it gives you more space to connect with God. Purpose, too, is a form of companionship. Look at a gardener who spends hours tending to his plants. To others, it may seem like he is alone, but in reality, he is surrounded by life, by growth, by purpose. His plants respond to his care, and his heart responds to their beauty. Look at an artist who spends long nights painting, or a writer sitting quietly with a pen and paper. They may not have a room full of friends, but they have companionship in their purpose. That purpose fills their soul, strengthens their spirit, and gives meaning to every breath. Take a simple daily life situation. A woman wakes up in the morning, and instead of finding messages from friends or invitations to go out, she finds silence. At first, she feels empty. But then she remembers her higher purpose. Maybe it is caring for her children, maybe it is serving her parents, maybe it is building a career that adds value to others. As she focuses on that, the silence turns into peace. She realizes she doesn't need dozens of friends to validate her life. Her purpose gives her fulfillment, and God gives her strength. This is real companionship. One that never leaves, one that never hurts, one that grows with you as you walk through life. Think also of great inventors, teachers, leaders, and spiritual seekers. Many of them spent years in solitude, away from crowds and noise. They were not surrounded by constant friendships, but they were never truly alone. Their companionship was with their mission and in their hearts with God. That companionship gave them courage to endure challenges, resilience to overcome obstacles, and faith to keep moving when no one else believed in them. So, what does this mean for you? It means that even if friends are not around, even if society forgets you, you are never abandoned. Every morning you wake up with breath in your body. God has given you a new chance to walk with Him. Every action you take toward your purpose, no matter how small, is a step taken with divine support. You do not need to fear the silence or the absence of people. Instead, fill that silence with prayer, with meaningful work, with service, with growth, then you will realize that you are accompanied every single moment. The most beautiful truth is this: when you learn to walk with God and with your purpose, even when people come back into your life, you no longer depend on them for happiness. You welcome them with love, but your foundation is unshakable. Your joy does not come from their presence, nor does your peace leave with their absence. You remain whole, steady, and strong. So, if ever you feel you are a woman with no friend, remember you are not without companionship. You are walking with God's presence, and you are walking with your purpose. And these two companions are greater than 1,000 friendships, because they will never leave your side. In them, you will find not only strength, but also peace, fulfillment, and everlasting joy.